I feel like Marvin Gaye conversing with Rick James, both in they hate, trying to open third eyes. But my lifestyle still wild and cray. Guess it's safe to say I got two sides and a biscuit like a #1 from Popeyes. Reside on the east of the cap of the Peach State, with country slang and riding Chevrolets and our DNA. Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete.
What's going on, everybody? Nobody Famous here. In this video, I'm going to show you is how to basically make an entire hip-hop song, from picking a sample, chopping up the sample, making the beat, adding different drops, things like that, to recording the vocals and how I mix vocals and do my mixes and everything like that. Some things in this video I'm going to speed up, such as some of the edits and things like that when I go in and I edit the vocals. And then some things you're not going to actually see, like actually recording the vocal tracks and things like that. The artist that I worked with on this song, his name is Skinny C. He's an artist I've been working with for like 14 years now, and he's a really dope lyricist. So what I wanted to do, we've been kind of floating around doing this video for a while for the Machine Masters community, but I really wanted to make a song that I felt that the community would really I guess vibe to and relate to more. So sometimes I do a lot of stuff kind of more on the electronic side, but I wanted to make something more just straight hip-hop sample based, because a lot of people who are on the side are using machines and looking, you know, to potentially use Ableton as well and chop samples. So I'm basically just show you how I do all that in here. Now what you're looking at now is my full arrangement. It has the vocals in it. I have everything here on the right that is actually labeled, so I keep it organized. I always suggest, like in all my other videos that I do, and when I tell people that you really want to keep your sessions organized, because this song doesn't have a lot of tracks, but sometimes when it gets to 40-50 tracks in a song, you need to know what's what, and you'll be able to just scan right here and go to, if you need to go to the bass line, you can open up the bass line, do your edits and things like that. So I always suggest that you stay highly organized. Now I'm just going to play just a quick snippet of the song, and then I'm going to basically take it down to the very beginning and build it back up and show you how it was done.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on bare feet. Do it big time like Flavor Flav neck piece. Humility and...
Okay. So that's what the song sounds like. It's a Marvin Gaye sample. I'm going to show you the sample, how I chop that and everything like that. Now when I start a session, there's a few basic things that are in my just default Ableton template. So I'm going to actually mute this because I have some automation on some of these. And I'm going to mute this one as well. Now I always start off, I use mostly just the Waves bundle and this Magma plugin right here, and then aside from that, everything else comes strictly from Ableton. So you can do a lot of this stuff, like there's limiters in Ableton that you can use. I use the SSL compressor a lot from the Waves bundle. You can basically use the glue compressor for that in Ableton Live 9 as well. It's very similar sound, very similar process for that. And then I also have 2 return tracks that are always just default that I saved. So the first one is a ping pong delay, and I use that in a lot of my stuff. And you can see the settings right here. And then I have a reverb. I do the Cathedral. I have the dry wet turned up all the way because I can just send things from these different tracks to this reverb. So that's usually my basic Ableton set. And then everything else, it just starts off with one MIDI track, one audio track, and then I just build it out from there. So I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to mute all of these tracks. And then I'm going to show you what the sample sounds like and how I chop that up, and then we'll build off from there. Okay. Like I said, it's a Marvin Gaye sample all the way around. And what I did is when I dropped the sample in, I actually work out of this view when I start to make the beat. So you see I have my sample and everything like that here. So when I drop the sample in, I go in and I start to add the warp markers where I think a good chop would be. So I'll just kind of play this loop for you so you see how it sounds, and then I'll show you how I chopped it up. So that's what that segment sounds like. And basically, I went in and I just look, and I'm looking as I'm listening, and everywhere there's like a drum, a bass kick, a cool little bass riff, strings doing the run, something like that, I added a warp marker. So it's like right here, right when that crash hits and the vocals come in, I put a warp marker. This part right here where the strings changed up right there, and goes back into another vocal part. There's that kick right there, I put one on there. More vocals. And with those vocals, you see it's just he's just singing some harmonies right there. So right here is a string run, and I'm pretty much just looking for anything, listening for anything along the progression and how I can chop it and make it into something different. So I went through this whole riff, this whole little loop, excuse me, and added warp markers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 warp markers there that I chopped it to. So once I have that, you could just go to YouTube and you can Google, or you can look up MPC presets for Ableton slicing, and you're going to find videos, and it's going to tell you how you can chop up. It's going to show you how you can set up a preset so that it chops it like an MPC. So basically it's going to create chokes. So every time you press one pad or one key, whatever was playing before is going to cut off. Okay. So what you can do, and you can do this in this view, in the arrangement view if you want, you're going to control click, and then you're going to go down to slice to new MIDI track. So when you click the slice to new MIDI track, you're going to do it by warp marker. Now you don't always have to do it by warp marker. What you can do is if you go and you just do a perfect like 4-bar, 8-bar loop, and you just make sure everything's on beat and you do it to the metronome, you can do like quarter notes or eighth notes or something like that. But if it's something where you want chops to be at specific places in the sample, you want to add your own warp markers and then chop it up according, and then chop it up so that when you're playing it on the keys or on the pads, it's chopped right where you want it at. Okay, so I'm going to choose warp marker, and then I'm going to choose MPC drum rack sampler. Now that's just one, like I said, I Googled, and this literally probably 4 or 5 years ago, so I'm sure the videos are still up. I Googled it on how to chop samples like an MPC in Ableton. I went through the tutorial, took about 5 minutes, set it up, and then I've just always used this preset. So I'm gonna click that, and then I'm gonna click OK. So it's gonna give me 14 chops. Okay, so I already have this this set up down here, so I'm just gonna delete that of what I just made, and then I'm gonna bring that track live. I'm just going to mute that sample track. Okay, so you see now I kind of color coded it, but I have this chop sequence here, which I'll play for you in a second, and then I have this chop sequence. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just have my pads up. Okay, so those are the chops. And you see how it's playing right here. Down here in the sampler. Now, there's some cool things that you can do with samples using this particular preset, and it's kind of like a little. It's not really a secret, but it's just something that a lot of people might not mess with very often. So I like messing with the transpose sometimes. And that's pretty, that's a pretty basic feature for chopping samples, but then also the reverse. Especially when there's vocals involved, you can get some really cool sounds, and you can make a whole beat off of those type of chops. But I want to keep it straightforward with this one, so I didn't transpose anything, I didn't reverse anything. Volume, if you need to turn the volume up, things like that. Okay, so the first chops. And what I'll do is I'll put it right here so you can see what I'm playing down here at the bottom. So basically what I did, I just started messing around with it. I was like, oh, that sounds good. I dropped in, I just turned the metronome on and started playing it over it. Okay, so that's that. Once I had those chops, I started building off from there. Then I went to the drums. So with the way it starts off with these drums, I just built a drum rack, and I have, excuse me. Okay, so basically what I did is there was a drum loop, any drum loop break, things like that. I'll play what the whole thing sounds like. And I did the exact same process of chopping it up, but instead of using the MPC preset, I just used a regular default Ableton preset because I didn't want things to cut off. So if I'm playing like a hi-hat and a snare, whichever one you play first is going to cut off the other one. So I didn't want to do that, so I just used the default chopping presets, and I did it to the warp marker, and I basically put a warp marker on every single drum hit. And then what I did was, in my drums, I went in and I started to add, I added a kick. So I had the original kick, which was this one right here. So you see it's pretty weak. It's not very strong. So what I did was I added this kick behind it, and when you put them together, it has more punch to it. So the way I did that is, if you're in your drum rack, just let me pull up just a quick kick just to show you. Let's see here. So you have a kick, and say I wanted to use that one. I would just drag it into a blank cell, and then I would play this kick to see what pad it's on. So right now it's at G1, and then this one right here that I just brought in is an A sharp one. So what I do is on receive play, if that's not open, you can click your in and out right here. On that A1, I'm going to look for my G1. Where's it at? I'm going to add it, and you see it disappeared here, and it went into this one track that's multi. So now when I play it, you see it has 3 kicks there, and you can add as many as you want to, turn them down, bring them up, and just kind of get a sound that you like, and then you have that. I'm just going to bring this one down because I don't need it right now. I already know how I wanted it to sound. And then for this pad, I just added a finger snap. Okay, so this first drum sequence right here, it's just snaps. So with that sample, it sounds like this. Okay, and then I added an open hi-hat. And for this drum loop, this is the Impeach the President drum loop, so it sounds like this. And I actually have it EQ'd out. So what I did is the same thing as I chopped it by every drum hit, and then for that open hi-hat, which is this pad, I don't want that low end in there. So I brought in the EQ, and to bring in the EQ, you just go to Audio Effects. I like using the EQ8. You drag the EQ8 straight in, and then basically I just change my 1 to roll off the low end. So you just pretty much hear the open hi-hat, and you don't hear the kick, but it's still crunchy, and it's still kind of, well, it is analog sounding. So then play that together. Okay, so that was my intro, and then I have separate chops for when the verse comes in. Oops. Okay, and these chops are from that original, those 14 chops from the beginning. It's just a different section from that loop. So I basically took that one loop, I think it was about 8-9 bars. I added all those warp markers, added my chops, and then created 2 different sequences off of that one loop. So that's what that sequence sounds like. Now this is when the drums kick in. So I'm gonna show you what the drums sound like just by themselves. So I have, and what they look like as well. So as I showed you, I have my kick. I was using this snare. And then, let's see. Where's the other one at? These 2 is my hi-hats. Okay, so this is what it sounds like together. So what it looks like. Okay, so that's the loop. For that little drum roll at the end of those 2 bars, well, all I did was I drew these 2 in, and then I changed the velocity on the last one, and then this one a little bit as well. So it's not as strong as the rest of the snares, and it creates like that little quick roll that you hear. So just little details like that is going to add swing to your drum loops. And you can actually, there's a lot of swing presets in Ableton as well that you can use. So sometimes, I'll just quantize everything straight to the grid, and then I'll add like swing from that. Sometimes I'll leave it kind of loose. It just depends on the vibe, how everything goes with the sample and how it flows. So with the sample, with the drums, and with those open hi-hats, it sounds like this. Okay, so the next thing I did was the bass line. I used 808s on this, and then basically after the 808, when I brought the 808 in, I brought an 808 that was already tuned and put it into the sampler, and then I added a couple plugins. So I'll show you how I did the plugins here in a second after I show you how I got the bass line in. So this is what it sounds like by itself. Okay, so the original sample already has like some bass in it, but I wanted it to really knock. So what I did was I brought in a sampler, and the sampler is found if you go to instruments and you go to the sampler and you just drag it in. It's going to drag in an empty sampler, right? And then I went to I have some trap 808s, and I just went through, found one that I liked, and that was the one I liked the best. It's just clean, it has a good round bottom to it. And I just take that and I brought it into the sample right here. Everything in Ableton pretty much is drag and drop. So once I drag that in, the sample was in there. So when I come here, I can play it. Now the one thing you need to remember is that if you're using, this was a tuned 808. So what I did was, since this is in the key of F, you come down here when you're on the sample window, and you just change it out to whatever key it's in. So I brought it down to F3. And that's how you can get some cool, quick tune 808s and play them on your keyboard, play them on your pads and whatnot. Then the next thing I did was I came over to filter. And usually this is not all going to be set as like this. It's probably going to look something about like this. So I do is I bring the sustain up all the way, and I bring the release up all the way. and then I change it. Voices is usually, I think, default at 6. I change it to 1. So basically every time you play a new note, it's going to choke it out. And if you have like multiple voices, they play over each other, so you don't want that. It'll get muddy. It won't sound right. So you put that on 1. Then after you do that, all you have to do is, you can play it higher up in a higher octave to make sure that the key is the same, and then you just play to your drums. So when you put that in with the drums, okay, so that's pretty much the main elements of the beat. Okay, so once that's done, I had a drum loop that I've used before in a song a while back, and I just liked it, and I figured it would sound good as a fill. So what it sounds like by itself, and to loop something, you just select it however much you want, press Command L, and it will loop that section. So I'm just going to loop this section for you so you can see what it sounds like and solo it. And this is just a drum loop. That's like a good fill. Okay, and together with that beginning sample going into that, it sounds like this. Okay. Alright, so after that, the next thing I did pretty much was just started adding drops and little cool things to make it sound interesting. So right here, I have a filter on a sample. So what I did was, if I go to auto filter and that's selected, I have device on and off. So right here, when it's up, the device is on, and when it's down, the device is off. So I basically just went in and I drew what I wanted in and where I wanted it in. So I wanted to come in here, I drew it here, I wanted to come back, just to go away and turn off on there. Okay, and then for the actual filter itself, all I'm doing here is I'm rolling off most of the high end, and I'll just kind of play it by itself so you can see what it sounds like. And then I think this is usually set to hertz, so I just put it to the note right here, and I change it to quarter note, but you can change it to whatever you like. And I turn the LFO up, the amount up just a little bit, around 3. But if you turn it up more, it gets more wobbly. And you can change but I like quarter notes for something like this because it kind of is right there in the groove for like a head nod groove for a good hip hop beat. So but you want it to be subtle. You don't want to have too much to it, okay? So also what I did right here, this part went away, so I had to kind of show you how to do it again, is I have a bell tree here, but it only goes for a quarter note. So what I did was, if you click on speaker off and you turn it back on, it's going to have it selected right here. Right here is what you're automating, so you can draw in your automation. You can do it if you have a controller, and you can map stuff to different buttons and things like that. So what I do was I go in and I drag this down, and sometimes you gotta leave just a little bit of room before the next note comes in because it will overlap a little bit, and then it sounds like this. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll bring these out because I'm basically just creating a drop here. So let's see what this sounds like when it's coming in off of the beat. Okay, so it's just a cool way to transition from from basically coming from a full-on sample to like adding a filter. You can use like a little bell tree. You can do whatever you want to do. This is something I like to do. So what I also did here is I clicked on my pan. It was in the middle, and I'm panning it from down here, which is on the left, and I drew this in. So basically, I put two, just to kind of show you how you can do a quick one. You can put like a point here and there. Like you can click on here, and it'll bring it down, right? And then you have those points, so you can like take out two of those points. Well, you're gonna take out one of those points, and you can do something like that. So that's like going from right to left. This one's going from left to right. So you can automate. You can draw in your automation like that. And then I also have, remember earlier I always have my delay and my reverb. I have it going to my delay and reverb to my send. So you just bring these up right here, and on the other side is basically these knobs. So you can turn them up. If you're in this view, if you're on here, you just turn it up there. So you hear the ping pong delay as well as the reverb on that. And then after that, that's pretty much it for the rest of the beat. It's pretty simple. It's drums. It's, you know, a chopped up sample, and then some drops and some filtering, and it built up from there. So once I get my basic beat down and I have like a quick sequence in, I basically mix it from there. But I can show you how I work out of the other view, so you can see how that works first. So basically, there's really only two sections to this beat. So if I play it, this one, those are my two sections, but then I come back in here, and once I lay those out, that's when I start adding my filters and my drops and using things in different ways. So once that was done, I go in and I start mixing. So I kind of show you what I have on everything and why I used it, what it sounds like, and things like that. So as you heard right there, you heard the filter and what that sounds like. And usually above the filter, I use the SSL waves compressor. So without the compressor, it sounds like this. Okay, so what I did, I turned my ratio up to 10. I turned my attack all the way down because some of those chops, they come in really quickly. And I want everything to just kind of be even and smooth when I'm chopping samples. But you gotta experiment and see what you want, how you want it to sound, and what you're going for. I don't like things to be too squashed, but I don't like it to be just certain things sticking out at you as well, especially when it comes to the sample. Like I'd rather have my drum elements and everything's popping and my samples sound real smooth. And then I just started to turn down my threshold till I got between 4 and 8 decibel reduction right here. So when I play it, I'll kind of show you what you guys, how that works. Okay, and once I do that, sometimes it will bring the volume down when you compress. So if you want, you can bring the gain up. Some compressors is gain. For this one is makeup. And that brings it back up, the volume back up. So then I use this Magma. It's kind of like a rack. That's pretty cool. And what I like to do on here, I don't like to use, there's a lot of cool effects on here, but what I like to use the most is I go to Dynamics and I go to Devil's Touch. And it's just kind of like another compressor. It kind of sounds like a glue compressor. It sounds kind of analog type compressor. So what I do with that is I throw that on top of there. And I adjust the mix, and then I'll adjust the threshold and the ratios as well in the release. So this is something as well you have to play with for your sound and what you're going for. But I found that using the SSL compressor and this Magma with the Devil's Touch, it just really has like this warm, smooth sound, especially when you're working with samples and drums. Okay, so then my drums. Now my drum loop, I can show you in this view. These are the drums that I chopped up. Let's see. So my kick, I don't have anything on there because it sounds pretty good as is the way I layered it. And if you're coming straight from samples, you want to add some more processing to it. But if you're like layering it with other like samples from kits and stuff, those are usually already processed pretty well. So you just have to kind of play it by ear and see if it's popping and things are snapping the way you want. If not, add some more processing to it. But if it sounds good as is, you can do it like that. And then I have my snare. Now my snare, I did add some processing to it. So the first thing I added was a snare compressor. Snare compressor, this one's Ableton, and it's going to be under audio effects and compressor, and you open that up, you're going to see snare compressor. So I added that in first. This is what it sounds like without. This is what it sounds like with. So I found it's actually just a straight preset. It just helps with getting the snares to really pop. It's one of my favorite presets in Ableton, especially for the compressor. So I usually use that. And then what I did is I used the drum room. Now the drum room, again, this is an Ableton plugin. It's a reverb. So you go to reverb, you go to room, and then you have drum room. This is what it sounds like on full blast with full wetness. So obviously I bring that down. Just depends on what I'm working with. Around 7 for this. The way it sounds with the sample, they work well together. So you can see when I turn it off compared to when I have it on, it just adds more space. So when you add subtle reverb to different elements in your beats, it helps create its own space for it, and it helps those elements stick out a little bit more, or sit back in the mix a little bit more, depending on what you're going for. So, experiment with different reverbs and different spaces and see how you can develop your own sound for that. Now, for the bass line, I've used two things. The first preset I like to use is the one knob fattener from Waves as well. It's straight simple. You see it's one knob. I'll turn it on and I'll show you what it sounds like by itself without anything. So if you turn up all the way, you hear a little bit of distortion, but it makes it a lot fatter. So it's like, again, it's subtle, and you have to remember too that your bass line is working with your kick. So you don't want to add, you want to make sure that they mesh together and work well together. So that's what it sounds like on 3. And then the next thing I added was the C6 multiband compressor, and then I have it on default on this one. But sometimes I like to use, if you go to old school C4, there's deeper and there's hard basic. Those two work well together as well. And then I just boosted a little bit where I wanted it to pop out a little bit more. So to add that, and it sounds like this. Okay, and then I'll show you what it sounds like with just the drums and the bass. Okay, so that's pretty much it on mixing the beat. And usually before like an artist hears it, I've done all of that. It's pretty much mixed. And then I have the L1 just basically limiter, the ultra maximizer on there. And I just kind of do this to keep everything under control and not peak. So it's not necessary, but I just like to do it so everything sounds good as I'm working through. I kind of mix as I go for the most part, and then I'll basically mute everything and kind of build it back up just to make sure everything's on point. So then, once that's all done, I I did an intro. So for the intro, I basically took a part of the song that's later in the song, and you can see the part that I have selected is 9 bars. And you see right here it fits the 9 bars. And I added a fade to gray. Now the fade to gray comes from Ableton 8. There's like a preset buried deep down. And so if you had Ableton 8 before you had 9, it's going to be under Live Library. Then I believe presets, audio effect racks, performance and DJ, and then fade to gray right here. But you can kind of create, you can kind of create your own kind of fade to gray. I'll show you what it sounds like here in a second. So what I did was I took the beginning of the song. Let me see if I added some, I'm not sure if I did or not. Okay, so I took that part of the song and I'm basically made it the intro. Okay, so that's what fade to gray sounds like. So what I did was I kept it pretty subtle to the end, and then the more you turn it up, the more washed out it gets. And then once the sample came in, I brought it back down real slow over the main sample. And then the last thing I did was I took a bell tree and I unreversed it. This is what the bell tree sounds like. And what I did was I reversed it. I clicked on fades, and right here at the end I added fade. And what you can do is you can control click on the grid, and you can turn the grid off. So if you want something to come in right at a specific point that's not necessarily on the grid, or doesn't work with the grid when you're working with the sample, you turn that grid off. You can move it back the way you want it. And I usually work off of narrow for the grid, but you can you can do whatever you want to do. So this is what that reverse bell tree sounds like with that with the fade to gray going over the intro part of the sample. And then I added, I sent this to the delay. It's almost at 100% going to the delay, and then the reverb's at about 17. So that's how I did that. And that's pretty much the intro and where the beat comes in. Now, next was recording the vocals. Okay, so the next thing was getting with the artist and recording the vocals. This part, I'm not going to actually show you the actual recording of the vocals, but I'll show you how they were recorded, how I set everything up, and then how I mixed the vocals from there. So the first thing you want to do, obviously, is have an interface, a microphone, everything like that. I'm just using the little Focusrite interface. It's like $100. You can get a Guitar Center or wherever. Has an input for a mic, has an input for like a guitar. And then I'm using just an AKG Perception mic. You get one for $100, a couple $100, depending on which ones you get. And then mic cable with headphones going into the interface. Now what you can do is you can open up preferences, and you want to select your input device. So like I said, I'm using the iTrack Solo. I'm going to select that. Take a second, and now that's selected. So when I go through and I'm adding tracks and I'm selecting it to record, that's what it's going to record through. So I'll close those preferences. I'm going to create a track right here just to kind of show you how I do it. Actually, a couple tracks. And you see, even as I'm talking now, input 1 right here is showing up on that track. So if I hit record, you see now my voice is coming up. I can turn it up a little bit more. So what I'd like to do, instead of going, I like to basically create a recording track that I just use, and then I move what I record down. So for what I mean by that is I'll turn this down all the way, because you don't want it. Basically, going to play back with what you're saying or rapping or singing or whatever. So what's going to happen is it's going to have like a bit of latency and might throw you off. So I always just turn down the volume all the way. So the next thing I'll do, I'll go back to preferences, because when I'm actually making the beat, I'll have the count in on, but when I'm recording an artist, I don't want the count in on. So I'm going to click none and close that. So now, if you want to record something, you hit record. Mic check 1 2. Okay. So say that I already checked my volumes and everything, my gain and everything was okay, and that actually was what I wanted to say. So instead of going to this track and making sure that's selected and arming this track and turning this down and turning this back up, what I like to do is I'll just drag this down into this track. So once it's in that track, I can say that's my main track. Mic check 1 2. And say that was like rapping or singing, whatever. So then I will record the next track and I'll drag that down below. So usually I'll just create like 9 or 10 tracks, and I'll just move everything down and stack it like that. So same thing with keeping your tracks labeled and everything like that. You want to make sure that you're staying organized with what you record and how you record. So verses you're going to want on a track if it's one artist, right? So say this is like just one artist, like this song, I use one track for the verses. If we're doing like doubles over the verse, me personally, I like to do 2 tracks, pan them left and right, which I'll show you here in a second, edit them out, and then that would be like my backup, my background, double tracks, whatever. Hook, same thing with those double tracks. And then ad-libs, so on another track. I didn't label that one, so let me add that so I know what it is. And then if there was another artist, you do another 3-4 tracks for them. Another artist, and that's how those tracks will really add up very quickly. So I'm going to do, so we went through, the song was written, we did several takes, make sure everything was right, had to do a couple punches, things like that. And then this is what came out. So I'm going to delete these, this recording track and this example. And I'm going to basically start showing you what I do to mix the vocals. So the first thing I like to do is just go through and listen, and I'll start to kind of mix it as it's going. Now, a lot of times it just depends on what you read and how you like to work. People will be like, start with the bass and the drum, start with the bass and the drums, and then bring your vocals in, and then bring everything else around that. It just depends on the project for me, who I'm working with. If I know the artist's voice and I know what I want the song to sound like, I may not take everything out of the beat. I might just start mixing the vocals right over it and then kind of adjusting around it. But it really just depends on what your workflow is and what sound you're going for, and what you're trying to do. So I like to keep vocals very, very simple. By simple, I'm talking compressor, EQ, and then just some delays and reverbs, and slight delays and reverbs. Like nothing too major. Like there's so many plugins out these days, you can really go crazy with things. But I found like that's what you need to just get some good sounding vocals. You don't need much more than that. So the first thing I'll do is I'll start to listen, and I'll bring in my EQ. So I'll drag the EQ to that track, and I'll press play and just start listening.
I feel like Marvin Gaye conversing with Rick James, both in they hate, trying to open third eyes, but my lifestyle still wild and cray. Guess it's safe to say I got 2 sides and a biscuit like a #1 from Popeyes. Reside on the east of the cap of the Peach State, with country slang and riding Chevrolets and our DNA. Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on bare feet. Do it big time like Flavor Flay neck piece. Humility and honesty. Socrates philosophy. Designer frames. Cuban link.
Okay, so that's what I did for the EQ. I rolled off the lows, Depends on the artist, how deep their voice is, things like that. You can usually roll off anything below like 100 to 120. Sometimes you go a little higher. Sometimes you can bring it in a little lower. It just depends. Around 500. Sometimes weird frequencies sit there in a lot of people's voices, so I'll listen and I'll dip that. If you do it too low, sometimes it'll make it sound off as well, so you just gotta kind of make sure. It depends on the instruments that you're using, the type of beat you're making, everything, how much you want to bring down. He's has like, I guess, a lot of vocals that kind of sit in this higher range. So I kind of like to bring that down and just smooth it out a little bit, and then kind of bring in like this mid-range, bring that up a little bit.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch.
Okay, so after that, next thing I do is I go to my Waves bundle, and I bring in that SSL console, or not console, but the compressor. So I'll bring in that, and then I'll start to add compression on top of that.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on bare feet. Do it big time like Flavor Flav neck piece. Humility and honesty. Socrates philosophy. Designer frames. Cuban link pinching my taco meat. Focused on my funds and family. Everything else obsolete while politicians pulling robberies on the economy. But who am I to preach? Perfectly imperfect, working like a servant, moving like a merchant, searching for a purpose. Keep my eyes on the serpent because they slithering, plotting to pump Benjamins. Do to them nothing set in stone.
Okay, so I added the compression. What I did, I left the ratio at 4:1. I brought the attack all the way down because the rap vocals are coming in very quickly, so you want to basically make sure that the compressor is reacting basically instantly. And adding compression, I brought the threshold down to where I'm getting between 4 and 8 dBs in reduction, and then I added some more gain to bring those vocals back up. So you can see now, just with that compression and EQ, that is sounding smooth. The vocals have their own place, even though they're a little low. They still have their own place.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close.
So the next thing I'll do is I like the True Verb. Excuse me. I like the True Verb plugin, and I'll bring that in before the compressor. And there's one preset on here, the Tight New York Room, that I like to start with. And this is what it sounds like with just the vocals.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no.
I take off the early reflection.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy.
I would like to roll off that low end, bring up some more of the high end because the presets that one is already set. So I like to just, like I said, roll that off, bring that up. Then I'll go over here to the K time, and I usually do about 1.5 seconds. Just depends. Sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn.
Balance is going to bring it up or down and give you a little bit more reverb, so this is what it sounds on full.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on bare feet. Do it big time like Flavor Flav neck piece. Humility and honesty. Socrates.
Okay, so you see with that reverb, it created more of its own space for the vocals, and since that happened, I'm going to bring down the volume a little bit.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer.
Okay, and then the last thing I do on some vocals, it just depends on the song and the sound that I'm going for. This song doesn't require much of it, but I'm going to show you how to do it anyway, and I use a little bit of it. So what I'll do is I'll bring in a filter delay, and I'll drag that in before the compressor as well. And then what I'll do is I'll mute those vocals, or solo the vocals, and show you what it sounds like. So I'll delete this right one and left one. Since I have this mono plug-in on here, it's going to actually put everything on mono. So what I'm going to do real quick is go back to my waves, and I'm going to use the stereo version, and I'm going to take out that mono version. I pretty much remember the preset, or kind of how what I had, so I'll adjust that real quick.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch.
Okay, so if I wanted to create just a little echo effect, what I can do is I'll bring this up to dry all the way to 0, and I'll add my left one. So what I'll do is I'll start here on 2. I have to adjust this a little bit. I'm going to take my feedback pretty low, maybe like 10%, or around 10%, and I'm going to have this one panned all the way to the left. So I'm going to bring the volume all the way down and show you what it sounds like as I bring it up.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on.
So it adds a little quick delay, and then I might do it on the right, and I'll do it in a slightly different range. I'll turn that on. I also have that one pretty short, and then I'll bring that down and show you what it sounds like. I have this one on quarter notes.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on bare feet. Do it big time like Flavor Flav neck piece. Humility and honesty. Socrates philosophy. Designer frames. Cuban link pinching my taco meat. Focused on my funds and family.
Okay, so that's what that sounds like. You wanna, it depends on what you're going for, but for main vocals, going through, going through a whole rap song, you want that to be real subtle. Like, it doesn't have to be big. We'll add like a little space to it, add a cool effect to it. But if you have it up too high, too much volume on it, it's going to be distracting. It's going to take away from what you're going for. Now, the next thing we did is we recorded 2 tracks, just basically double tracks. I have one pan to the left, and I have one pan to the right. Now, he went through and he tried to do everything, the same, but everything, as you can even see right here, is not the same. So I'm going to show you a few on how I do a few of these and what it sounds like, and then I'm just going to speed up the video, and then go to the next phase. So this is what it sounds like.
Country slang and riding Chevrolets and our DNA. Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy.
Okay, so what I'll do, like I showed you earlier, I control click, and I'm gonna turn off the grid. And I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna zoom in, and I'm gonna start looking and adding and taking out things that aren't matched up, right? So I'll just click, add that, delete, do this, come close, delete. Now you see right here, they're not exactly the same. So what I'll do is I'll click on mixer, I'll turn on fades. Click on mixer and turn on fades. And I'll fade it just to make sure that everything kind of starts out the same, comes in the same. It's tedious to do, but if you want to have your stuff to sound good and make sure you're taking care of all the details, it's just something you have to do. So I'll just go through. This one looks pretty good, so I'll just fade those in. This one looks fairly good. Delete that, fade that, and then I'll show you what it sounds like.
And our DNA, excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go.
Okay, And you got to go through and listen as well. A lot of this little stuff, like these little breaths and stuff, aren't necessarily going to be heard on a song like this. So you don't have to cut out like every little thing. But, you know, certain things, like if he said half a bar before he matched up on the other track, you definitely want to like adjust that, cut that off, things like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to speed up the video. And then once I'm done with that, we'll go ahead and proceed to the next steps. So once I go through and do all of that, you see there's several different chops. I took out a lot of dead space. I was editing and making sure everything was lined up. All the words were the same. Everything's panned left and right, things like that. So what you can do if you want, you can select like both these tracks if you wanted to start at the very beginning. Control click. We might have to zoom in a little bit more. And then consolidate. So you can go to consolidate, right click if it's PC, and you're going to do that, and it'll basically take all of those different sections, all those different chops, and make it into one long track. Just like that. Okay, so right, you see it right, everything like that. And then you can do it as well on this one. Alright, so now that I have my background vocals on those tracks, I'm going to unmute all this. I'm going to select these two tracks, and what you can do is control click if you're on the Mac, right click if you're on the PC, or you can do Command G, and I'm going to group these two tracks together. So instead of having to add effects for each one of these, I'll just add it to the group. And it will help. It will just save time and processing power. Okay. So you see under this group, I have my background 1, my background 2, one's to the left, one's to the right, and they're brought down a little bit in volume. So what I'll do usually for this, it's just compression and EQ, and maybe a little bit of reverb, and I'll probably do that by sending it to the reverb return track, but nothing too major. I don't want these to really stand out a lot. I just want it to be subtle in the background. So I'll just start playing it, and I'll start mixing.
Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn a heart racing. They drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on bare feet. Do it big time like Flavor Flav neck piece. Humility and honesty. Socrates philosophy. Designer frames. Cuban link pinching my taco meat. Focused on my funds and family. Everything else obsolete. While politicians pulling robberies on the economy. But who am I to preach? Perfectly imperfect. Working like a servant. Moving like a merchant. Searching for a purpose. Keep my eyes on the serpent. Because they slithering. Plotting to pump Benjamins. Due to them, nothing set in stone. All tentative. Airways flooded with ignorance. No censoring. Got your mental in imprisonment. Satisfied with entry-level penmanship. Get a grip and expand your horizon. Remove the disguises. Faker than a $3 bill. They live in proof. Be the man in the mirror. Swallow the pill of truth. Wit mixed with grit and intellect. Make the...
Okay. So what I did is I cut out a little bit more of the low end on these vocals and boost a little bit of that mid range. I added compression, and I compressed it a little bit more than I did the main vocals as well. Because like I said, I wanted it to be subtle. I wanted it to be tucked away in the back. And that's pretty much how I do the verse. So then I go to the hook. For this hook, it was pretty much the same type of vocals on the hook part as it was on the verse. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna select everything I did. I'm gonna copy it. So Command C, Control C if you're on the PC. I'm gonna go to the hook, click in here. I'm Command V. I'm gonna paste it. All right. So my volume for my main one is like -0.5, 0.5. I'll start here, and of course I'll adjust as need be as I go through it. But for now, just to get a good bass starting point, that's where I'll start. So I'll listen to see how it sounds.
I'll confess, sometimes God, my ghostwriter. All I ever wanted to do was sell 1 million records. Rock a stadium shirtless, my best Tupac impression. Demeanor on intrepid, appreciative of life lessons. That starter kit don't matter, it's all on what you left with. In other words, you only funky as your last cut. I'll confess, sometimes God, my ghostwriter. All I ever wanted to do was sell 1 million records. Rock a stadium shirtless, my best Tupac impression. Demeanor on intrepid, appreciative of life lessons. That starter kit don't matter, it's all on what you left with. In other words, you only funky as your last cut.
Okay, so now that I have that, the doubles on the hook, they're not as intensive, I guess you could say, as the ones on the verses. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring those in and see what they sound like together when this second half of the verse hook comes in.
Kid don't matter, it's all on what you left with. In other words, you only funky as your last cut. In other words, you only funky as your last cut. The starter kit don't matter, it's all on what you left with. Too many critics.
Okay, so like how that's sounding, I'm gonna group the hook background vocals. Let's call it hook back. Go to my background. I'm gonna select both of these plugins. I'm gonna go back here to hook background. I'm gonna paste them. I'm gonna see how it sounds. I'm probably gonna leave some more of that low end already. I already know this, so I'm just gonna bring that back up a little bit, and then I'm gonna see how it sounds and then adjust from there.
All on what you left with. In other words, you only funky as your last. Your tip of life lessons. That starter kit don't matter. It's all on what you left with. In other words, you only funky as your last cut. In other words, you only funky as your last cut. That starter kit don't matter. It's all on what you left with. Your tip of life lessons. That starter kit don't matter. It's all on what you left with. In other words, you only funky as your last cut. In other words, you only funky as your last cut. That starter kit don't matter. It's all on what you left with. Too many critics.
Okay, so what I did is I brought in some more of that delay. I sent it to this return track, and as well as that that reverb, and then on top of that, I just adjusted the compression a little bit. Now, like I said several times, it just depends on the song, what you're going for, the type of song it is, things like that. This one's just like a straightforward like hip hop song, so I'm not adding a lot to it. If it was like a singing hook, these background vocals, it'd probably have like, 2 or 3 mid-range harmonies, 2 or 3 high harmonies, a low harmony. It might literally be 10, 12 tracks for like this one section, pan left and right at certain intervals and all that kind of craziness. But this is just a straight hip-hop vocals with some background doubles on it and things like that. So that's how I did the hook. Now for the ad-libs, I'm just going to mute these, and this just really depends on what they are and the type of song as well. But what I'll do is I'll start listening to them, and I'll first start with an EQ. So I'll just bring an EQ in to the track, and I'll cut out a lot of the low end, and then boost that that mid-high range and that high-end range. And it's almost like a telephone effect. And this is how you can get a telephone effect if you cut out a little bit more low-end, but not like super harsh or super cheesy for like this type of song. So this is what it sounds like. And I do that because I just don't want that low end to mesh with the vocals. I have, doubles going on. I have the verses, and then I have everything in the instrumental as well. So I'll do that. I'll send some to the delay. So I'll bring that to the reverb, excuse me, just to create its own space, and then some delay as well. It's a little too much, so I'll bring it down. Then I might pan it to the left or right just a little bit. So I'll just try it with the left, see what it sounds like. I'll unsolo it, play with everything, and then adjust the volume accordingly. And then one other thing real quick as well is I'll obviously add a compressor. Some things are higher than others, some things are lower. There's a lot of quick audio. So I'll do a 10-to-1 ratio of quick attack, and I'll bring down the threshold and just listen to see what it sounds like and adjust from there.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll bring it in and then we'll see how it sounds.
Country slanging, riding Chevrolets, and our DNA. Excellence of execution, I strive for greatness. Concrete foundation, go mode, no breaking. Success so close, I can taste it. My drive earn heart racing, they drive Miss Daisy. Illustrations displayed when I clutch the paintbrush. Hammer MCs with a style you can't touch. Sharp as the claws on paws found on bare feet. Do it big time like Flavor Flav neck piece. Humility and honesty, Socrates philosophy. Designer frames, Cuban link pinching my taco meat. Focused on my funds and family, everything else obsolete. While politicians pulling rents, no censoring. Got your mental in imprisonment. Satisfied with entry-level penmanship. Get a grip and expand your...
Okay. So after that, and you have to go through sometimes. They say the artist might say the wrong thing. The ad-lib may not go well with that. So just like editing the background vocals and things like that, you have to go through, chop things out, remove things as well. I'm not going to do that for this. I'll go back and do that before I do the final mix down. But just know that that's also an option for that. Now, after everything's together, everything's done, what I do is I already have my L1 maximizer on here, so I'll play it and just kind of see how much gain reduction is happening. And it's really only with the kick and when the kick and that bass hits. I don't want too much, but I do kind of like to just, if you bring that threshold down, it will kind of like squeeze it and give it a little bit more volume. So I just kind of like play with it. I still want it to breathe a little bit. I still want it to punch and everything like that. But it's just kind of like a quick way to just add some volume to your mix if it's just going to the internet, something like that, or for a demo or whatever the case may be.
No censoring, got your mental in imprisonment. Satisfied with entry-level penmanship. Get a grip and expand your horizon. Remove the disguises. Faker than a $3 bill. They live.
Okay, then the next thing I'll do is I'll go back to my Magma. Same thing, that Devil's Touch, I'll add that. I'll just adjust my mix. I usually leave it at about 50. And you can change the ratio and attack. But it just adds like a real subtle kind of like cohesiveness to the mix. So I'll play it, then I'll bring it in.
No censoring, got your mental in imprisonment. Satisfied with entry-level penmanship. Get a grip and expand your horizon. Remove the disguises.
So it kind of basically mellows everything out, smooths everything out. So that is pretty much how it goes from finding a dope sample, chopping it up, creating your drum pattern, creating your chops, creating your drum patterns, adding your bass line, adding your drops and your effects and your filters, how to record the vocals, editing all the vocals, and then mixing the vocals, then basically doing like a quick master on the mix. And that's everything from start to finish on how I make a song. Everybody's process is different, but that's just how I do it. So I hope that you found some of this useful and informative. Nobody Famous on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff. Look me up. The artist again is Skinny C, and I'll put his information here at the bottom of the screen right now as well. So follow us, check us out. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment sections of this video. I'll check back often. And you can always tag me in it as well, or email me, nobodyfamousmusic@gmail.com. I like to help and just help people out if they have questions. So feel free to hit me up. Shout out to Machine Masters, very dope community. I'm glad and blessed and fortunate to be working with them, doing these videos for you all. So you guys keep the community strong. I hope you learned something. Until next time, nobody famous. Peace.